Okay, let's unpack this. Trying to connect with, an 11, 12, or 13-year-old about the important stuff, it can sometimes feel like, well, like trying to hug a cactus. Yeah. Prickly, unpredictable.
Mm-hmm. It really can. 1 minute, they're right there with you. The next, it's like a whole different language, mostly eye rolls.
Totally. And think about everything they're dealing with. Puberty, friendships shifting constantly, which feels huge to them, wanting independence but still needing support.
Yeah, plus school pressures, social media stuff, figuring out who they even are. It's just this massive developmental whirlwind.
It really is. And it makes sense that their mental and emotional health can get a bit shaky during this time.
Which is precisely why keeping those lines of communication open becomes so incredibly important, even though, as you said, this age makes it feel extra challenging for parents or caregivers.
Exactly. So that's what this deep dive is all about. We're focusing on some really practical, concrete steps you can take. These come recommended by UNICEF, actually.
Right. 6 specific steps designed to help start those tricky mental health conversations without it feeling super awkward or forced.
Yeah, the idea isn't that you'll suddenly have all the magic answers. It's more about creating an environment, a space where talking feels possible, more open, more supportive.
And fundamentally, these steps are about building trust, laying that groundwork so they know they can talk to you, not just now, but as things get even more complicated later on.
Okay, so let's dive right into UNICEF's first step. It's called Read the Room. Basically, timing is everything.
Mm-hmm. And crucially, this isn't about setting up a formal meeting, we need to talk.
Right. No serious summit planned. It's about finding those natural everyday moments when the pressure feels lower.
Exactly. UNICEF points to things like when you're driving somewhere, maybe cooking together, even just folding laundry, those times when you're side by side, not necessarily face-to-face and tense.
It's about spotting those little windows, isn't it, when things feel a bit more relaxed. And, importantly, the advice says if they're clearly having a bad day already,
Yeah, if they seem really stressed or grumpy.
then maybe that's not the moment. Respecting that space, maybe saying, hey, looks like a tough time, let's chat later, shows you're paying attention.
That's such a key element of this first step, that attunement, really being sensitive to where they're at emotionally. It signals respect right from the start.
Okay, so that leads smoothly into step 2.
Yeah.
Start with observation, not accusation. This feels like a really big one. A mindset shift, almost.
It really is. The whole point here is to invite them into a conversation gently, rather than, pointing fingers.
So instead of jumping to conclusions, you notice changes. Maybe they've gone quiet, or their grades have dropped a bit.
Or they're not hanging out with friends like they used to. You just observe the change.
And then the way you bring it up is key. UNICEF suggests something like, hey, I've noticed you seem a bit down lately. Everything okay? Want to talk?
Exactly. It's an observation plus an open, caring question. It's not, why are you so moody all the time? Or what's wrong with your grades? Which just puts them on the defensive immediately.
Right, because that just shuts things down. The goal here is just to gently open the door, signal, I see something might be up, and I care.
Mm-hmm. You're not assuming you know what's wrong. You're just showing concern based on what you've seen. It makes it much safer for them to actually respond.
Okay, step 3, I like the framing of this one. Listen. Like, it's your superpower.
Yeah, it's good framing because it emphasizes that listening isn't passive here. It's a really active, focused skill.
Meaning, put the phone down, stop planning dinner in your head.
Right. No mental grocery lists. Really tune in to what they're actually saying and maybe what they're not saying too, and resist that urge to jump in immediately with advice or solutions.
That's so hard sometimes. And a really crucial part of this step, the advice highlights, is try not to judge their feelings.
Oh, absolutely critical. Even if the thing they're upset about seems like totally minor or illogical to you, some drama over a text message or something.
Yeah, you might be thinking seriously.
Right. But to them, in that moment, those feelings are huge and very real. Dismissing them just invalidates their experience.
So you really have to, as UNICEF puts it, actively try to listen without letting your thoughts and judgment guide the conversation. Create that safe space.
Precisely, because if they feel judged, they'll clam up. If they feel heard, they might actually share more, which leads us right into the next step.
Step 4, validate, validate, validate. This feels like the natural follow-on from really listening.
It is. Validation is basically acknowledging their feelings are real and make sense to them, even if you don't fully get it or agree with the situation.
So even with that, say, group chat drama, that seems trivial to you.
You can still see something like, wow, I can see why that would feel really upsetting, or That sounds frustrating.
Yeah, that's so different from, oh, come on, that's not a big deal, just ignore it.
Exactly. That kind of dismissal, even if well-intentioned, just communicates your feelings don't matter or you're overreacting, and that shuts down the conversation fast.
It really does. They've likely taken a risk just bringing it up, so feeling dismissed is like slamming the door shut.
And it's important for you listening to remember. Validating feelings isn't the same as saying their behavior was okay or that you agree with their entire viewpoint.
Right, it's just saying, I hear your emotion and I accept that it's real for you.
It's a simple but incredibly powerful way to build trust and keep that door open for future talks.
Okay, moving on to step 5. Collaborate on solutions. This is about empowering them, right? Not just swooping in.
Yes, exactly. The advice strongly cautions against you immediately jumping in with your fixes. Here's what you should do.
Which is often our instinct as parents or caregivers. We want to solve the problem.
Of course. But this step emphasizes asking them first. Questions like, okay, that sounds tough. What do you think might help? Or, is there anything I can do to support you with this?
It puts the ball in their court. I like the analogy they use. You become the trusty sidekick, and they're the hero of their own story.
It's a great way to think about it. You're guiding and supporting, but they are the ones developing the solutions and the coping skills. You're not just fixing the immediate issue.
You're helping them build their own problem-solving muscles for the future.
Exactly. It fosters that sense of agency, competence, and resilience, which is so important at this age.
All right, that brings us to the final step, number 6. Stay calm, stay kind. This feels like maybe the toughest one sometimes.
It definitely can be, because these conversations, let's be honest, aren't always going to go smoothly.
No. They might snap or get defensive or just give you one-word answers, or maybe you get triggered or frustrated.
The guidance acknowledges all of that, and it stresses that in those difficult moments, your ability to stay calm and respond with kindness, or at least neutrality, is crucial.
And it's okay to pause, right, if things are getting heated.
Absolutely. Say something like, okay, let's take a break and talk about this later when we're both calmer. And if you messed up, if you reacted poorly,
Apologize.
yeah,
Model that it's okay to make mistakes and own them.
for sure. And the advice explicitly warns against getting drawn into arguments, blaming them, or comparing them to siblings or other kids.
Yeah, comparisons are just killer for communication.
Totally counterproductive. And the underlying message here, the thing UNICEF really emphasizes at the end.
Is that consistent love and support.
Right. It may take some time, but always make it clear that you love them and are only thinking of their well-being. That unwavering care is the foundation, even when conversations are tough.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive on these UNICEF steps, the big message seems to be less about finding the perfect words.
It's not about a script.
Yeah, it's more about your presence, your patience, just creating that open, non-judgmental vibe for these connections, even if they feel a bit prickly sometimes.
And it's worth remembering, even if their reaction in the moment seems negative, the eye roll, the slammed door, the mumbled fine,
They're still hearing you on some level.
they are. And knowing deep down that you're there, that you're trying, that they can come to you if things get really bad, that is incredibly valuable. It builds that safety net.
So maybe for you listening, just take a second to think about these 6 steps. Is there one that particularly resonates or one that feels like maybe a good place to start?
Yeah, maybe just pick one approach to try out intentionally in the next week or so.
Remember, it's not about suddenly becoming the perfect communicator overnight.
Yeah.
It's about that consistent effort, that patience, and just showing up for these really important ongoing conversations.